My name is Joy, and my Hawaiian name is Kalea, which means the joy. and I am a native of the Philippines. I've lived in Hawaii for about 20 some years. So this is home. Though it's beautiful, I am more a Tropicana, as they say. So I love the warm weather. I don't like shoes upon my feet. That's actually a lyrics in the song. To be at ease is such a treat. So I really, really love Hawaii so much. Kailua Kona is very special place. Like, of course, all of Hawaii. But here in Kailua Kona is where the King Kamehameha the Great, the first, retired from 1812 to 1819. He conquered the islands under one kingdom in 1812, and so he retired at Kailua Bay, actually known as Kamakahunu Bay. That means the eye of the turtle, so that is the name of the bay, but it's popularly known as Kailua Kona. And Kai literally means ocean, and the word lua is actually shortened. It used to be elua. It's from the word elua, which means two. So Kai, ocean, elua, two, because there are two different water temperatures. There's spring water that is cold, and then there's the ocean water. So it's the two waters mixed together. So that's how the name came about, Kailua Kona, the two waters. I love sharing the history of Kona. It's a very, very special place, especially at the Kamakahunu Bay where the king retired. So in 1812 to 1819, that was the state capital until he died in 1819. And if you go to the bay, you will see a special hi'iau. Hi'iau means temple. It's like a thatch, grass-looking structure with a grass roof, and that is a temple rededicated by King Kamehameha the Great to the god of peace and agriculture, Lono. The first thought, actually, the god Lono was Captain Cook. When Captain Cook arrived in Kealakekua Bay in 1778. Okay, but before we go into that story, because that's another place in Kealakekua, when the king died at Kamakahunu Bay in 1819, the kapu system was broken shortly after that. Now the kapu literally means forbidden, nowadays used for no trespassing sign. It means keep out. So when you do go to places and it will have a kapu sign in there spelled K-A-P-U, means keep out or no trespassing, or it's a sacred site. Okay, it's forbidden. And the kapu system was broken after King Kamehameha the Great died. Queen Kaahumanu, the favorite wife of King Kamehameha the first, invited King Kamehameha II to eat supper with her. But that is forbidden. But the king agreed to eat supper with the queens. And when that happened, when he agreed and they ate supper together, nothing happened to them. No lightnings going on in the skies. They were just fine. The gods didn't strike them dead, even though they broke the kapu system. So that was the start of the breaking of the kapu. The eating kapu is called, because there were other kapus, like it was kapu for the women to eat with the men. It was kapu for the women to eat certain foods. It was kapu to be in the shadow of the king or look at the king. So things like that. But that was the first kapu that was broken, was the eating kapu that happened right in Kailua Bay, here in Kona. And the missionaries came a few months later from Boston, Massachusetts, 1820. But the kapu system was already broken. So it wasn't the missionaries that broke the kapu. It was already broken when they came to Hawaii. And then they of course started, introducing a new religion, which the queens even um, adopted to or converted to the new religions, because they believed in the concept, and there was a void in their belief. What now? That the tradition is false. you know so what they believed for so long. But there were still other um, Hawaiian people who were trying to uphold the old tradition, so it actually started like a battle amongst themselves, different groups siding one side for another, belief that you can't break the kapu system like that. So that's the part of the history that happened in 1819 when the kapu system was broken. Correct, they did, and they did start teaching, and there were also, it was a confusing time. It was a difficult time, even though it was also sort of a blessing, I guess, in a way, because you know from the stories of our kupuna, our elders, is that there was a void in their beliefs. So when the missionaries came, it was like, oh, okay, that made sense. But it was still, because like I said, there was a confusion, because of some were still trying to uphold the old tradition. And eventually, of course, there were more religions introduced, and it was about 1838 when King Kamehameha III declared the religious freedom in the Hawaiian Kingdom. So now everything is welcome. Um, the tradition of giving offerings to, for example, Pele, the volcano goddess, and all of that is still, of course, being practiced and respected. Yeah, as far as the language, when it was forbidden way back then, I don't have too much information on that. Um, Although I have heard stories also from our elders that nowadays even some of our elders are not quite as caught up with the language as far as speaking it now, because it was forbidden. Although a lot of them still kind of, they still speak, a lot of the elders nowadays they speak Hawaiian, of course, but now it is taught in school again. And so you will still see some kids speaking Hawaiian when they go to the school, or take Hawaiian language classes. And so that is great to know. So you would think that it would only be the elders, because they learn first, and then they would share it, and of course they do still, and they did learn first. But it was difficult for the kupuna then, or those that actually experienced these hard times when it was forbidden. So we are very thankful that somehow it survived and it's continued on, and now they're teaching it to children as well. Yeah. Right. That I'm not certain of. I don't really have much information on as far as the living, arrangements then. Um, Although the missionaries did, I guess, build some churches as well. And there were also actually diseases introduced to Hawaii, and the population did dwindle down. I've heard of stories where they had a hard time coping, but then they also tried to find the cure, of course. So again, another interesting part of the history. And as far as Kona, um, most of the royalties, of course, resided here. Um, the more later time, it became the most popular area for tourism, because this is where all the activities are, and also the pier. The pier is built there now. So the world's largest triathlon is actually held here in Kailua Kona, and we have people from all over the world, and I'm sure Switzerland, Germany, all over the place, all over the states come to Hawaii, and that happens every October, mid-October. And the place where King Kamehameha the Great retired, in that area is where the swim starts and the run finish for the marathon, the triathlon. Yeah, so it is also home of the world's largest long-distance outrigger canoe race that happens every September 1st. Yes, so it's a happening place, Kailua Kona. It's where you should definitely spend some time in Kona. It's a lot of history, a lot of events. Captain Cook, yes,
Please,
I would
would
love
like
to.
Please.
Okay, all right. Are you ready?
Ready.
Okay, so from what I've learned, of course, many of us were not here when these things happened, so we depend on the history books, or somebody wrote, or different tours and guides that told you, whether it's the Kona Historical Society, or an uncle, or the Hawai'i Palace Museum, or a kupuna, or elders that tell the story. So my stories is just sort of a collection from what I learned from different people in different backgrounds and different I would say positions, right? So as far as Captain Cook, the story goes that in Kealakekua, which is just right around the corner here, by the way, that was Kealakeakua, which literally means the pathway to the gods, or the pathway of the gods. And in 1778, the Hawaiians gathered there because they were told the god of peace and agriculture, Lono, would arrive during the makahiki season, which means like the Hawaiian New Year, or the festivities. So no battles allowed, no battles going on, everybody stopped and sort of celebrate, party in a way. So in Kealakekua Bay, again used to be Kealakeakua, they gathered in 1778, waiting for the arrival of the god of peace and agriculture, Lono. And here comes Captain Cook. I guess somehow he fit that description. So I heard stories that when he introduced himself, that I'm so-and-so, they said, "Oh, we know who you are. You're the god of peace and agriculture. We've been waiting for you." So I guess he just said, "All right." So I guess he was sort of man of timing, because he was treated as one god. They thought he was a god of peace and agriculture. But I guess the way he behaved, or his men behaved, certain things just made the natives suspect that they're not, most likely not the god of, he's not the god of peace and agriculture, certain signs, And when he left, it was 1779, so he was here for around there 1 year. He actually experienced some bad weather, so had to come back on shore, and there were some misunderstandings going on, and he got killed by accident, is what I heard from the story. There's gonna be different versions, and so that's when he died. And so when he died, I believe that they prepared him as one god. So just in case. So that's what I heard. And so that's also why there is a Captain Cook monument there, because that's the area where he died. So that was the story. And while we're in the Captain Cook story, the word haole, they will call the Caucasians, or sometimes just the visitors in general, haole, maybe white skin, or newcomers. But malihini is also what we refer to as newcomers, or visitors. But the word haole was originally ha, which means breath, aole means no. Again, now it's just haole, but it was ha'aole, which means no breath. The word originated from the story by some of our elders and Auntie Tutu as well, is that when the visitors arrived, or the newcomers to the islands, they would shake hands, which I guess means I come open arms as well, and that's how you greet each other. You shake hands, right? Nice to meet you, right? But the Hawaiians greet each other nose to nose, forehead to forehead. You inhale, you exhale, and you're sharing the breath of life. So that's why aloha literally means the sharing of the breath of life. It's not just oh hello, goodbye, love. It really has a much deeper meaning to it. So here we are face to face sharing the breath of life. But when they didn't do that, when they shake hands instead, somebody said ha'aole. They don't do that greeting with the breathing. They're not breathing, you know? So no breath. So that's kind of what it means. It's no breath. So that's the word haole. Okay. So just wanted to share that with you. Thank you. It's my honor and pleasure. And of course, there's a lot more, a lot more stories that, a lot of our probably elders who really have been here, who were really born here, and a lot of stories to tell, and native of Hawaii that will have some of their feelings and thoughts shared. But as a